Hi, I'm Lily Bishop, and this is My Place in Canadian History. My Papu, Thomas Skiadas, was born on August 24, 1940 in Greece. From 1941 to 1944, Greece was occupied by the Nazis. They divided the country between the Bulgarians, Italians, and themselves, and were incredibly hostile towards the Greek civilians. The people were starved, their cities and towns bombed, and a lot of the population was murdered by the invading country's brutality. The Greek population in 1940 was 7,335,000, and in 1944 it was reduced to 6,805,000, 13% lower than it was 4 years earlier. At the end of the German occupation, the Greeks fell into a civil war when the coalition government made by the Greek royalists and communists fell apart. For 2 months, the communists continued to gain control of Greece, and then, thanks to the help of the British government, they were forced to disband their forces, and Greece returned to a royalist government. In 1946, the communists reopened a full-scale war. It was too big for the British government to control, so they asked the US to send support. By the end of 1947, Greek communists proclaimed a provisional government, keeping themselves protected in mountain regions. The end of the Civil War came when the Greek army, with the support of the British and Americans, were able to run them out of the mountains and take back control. Over 50,000 soldiers and 500,000 citizens died during the Civil War. These devastating events led to difficult living situations for millions, including Thomas and his family. At the age of 15, Thomas left his family and took the Queen Frederica to Toronto in hopes of getting a better education. In order to travel alone, he had to be 16, which would have meant waiting 3 months, so he lied about his birthday. He moved in with his Uncle Peter and started working at his restaurant, having to leave behind his hopes for education in order to pay the bills. Thomas didn't know any English when he first came over. He taught himself by reading newspapers and asking his co-workers about a word he didn't know. He continued doing this throughout his life. In the 60s, Thomas made a bet with a coworker that he could get the phone number of a woman eating at the restaurant. With a bit of work, he convinced her to go on a date with him, and that's how he met my Nana, Peggy, who he married in 1967. Sometime after that, while Thomas's uncle was visiting family in Greece, a man came into the restaurant with a possible business venture. There was a building in Midland the man was hoping to sell to Peter as a second restaurant, and seeing the opportunity, Thomas bought it and moved his wife and himself to Midland. On July 13, 1970, Peggy gave birth to my mom, Gay Skiadas. 6 years later, they moved to a new restaurant location in Bracebridge, where they settled down for good and my mom grew up. When she went to Ryerson University, she came home every summer to help out at the restaurant. In 1993, she went on a blind date with my dad, Rich Bishop, and he proposed a mere 6 weeks later. They were married in 1995 in Bracebridge and moved to Aurora. On July 14, 1997, they had my older brother Alex, and then my sister Emily on February 23, 1999. When Emily was only 7 months old, my dad got an offer from his company, IBM, to move to Connecticut. They took it and spent 2.5 years in America. Then, on June 5, 2002, they moved to Richmond Hill to have my sister Zoe on July 17th. 2 years later, they had me on September 27, 2004. Being the youngest of 4 has had its upsides and downsides, but I was always taken care of and loved by my older siblings. Currently, Alex is at University of Toronto, where he plays hockey for the Varsity Blues. Emily is at University of Guelph, studying to be a nurse. Zoe is in grade 12 at Bill Crothers and hopes to be a pediatric surgeon someday. And I'm in grade 10. I'm a national-level trampolinist at Skyriders Trampoline Place, training with an Olympic coach. I play the flute and am currently playing RCM Level 5. I've gotten all 90% or higher in grades 9 and 10, though I'm keeping my career path open. I do hope to do something with science, but I'm not sure what I want to do yet. My Papu died in 1997. I'm glad that I know where he came from and how he sacrificed his hopes for education, but found his family. I wish I could have known him, but the stories my mom and Nana tell me make me feel closer to him, and I will continue to learn about him, and someday I'll tell my children about my Papu, a self-made man from Greece who put family above all else.